Hello, my beautiful people. Now, let's face it. You have a movie out there that you love, but not a lot of people know about it. That's known as the underrated film. And with the amount of movies that exist, it's not so surprising that a lot of them are kept under the rug. Ahem. So, for this episode of Disneydude, I would like to go ahead and highlight 10 underrated Disney films that I feel like deserve to be in the limelight just a little bit more. No, just a heads up, this list is in no particular order except maybe number 1. And I just would like to show off the top 10 underrated Disney movies. Starting off with number 10.
Meet the Robinsons. Now, this film was released during that weird period in Disney animation history where they assumed that just because it's CGI means it will be a success for the company. The film wasn't that successful compared to what Pixar had released that same year. But regardless on how it did at the box office, how was the actual film's quality? Well, it's actually a very fun, entertaining kids film. It definitely has a decent message to it. The message, I think, is probably the best part about it. And it does have one of the most underrated Disney villains of all time. Twirl that mustache. Oh, is that part of that guy? What we do? Feel this little lump. And one of the things I really like about it is that it's always moving. It's got very well energized, and I love the personalities of each and every single one of the Robinsons, and these guys are just fun. I like these characters. It's a shame that we don't really get to see much of them aside from the robot, the son, and the dad. Or should I say the grandpa. And the mom. So, yeah. Overall, if you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend it. It has a good view of the future, and it has a great message to, no matter if your life's in the dumps or not, just always keep at it and keep moving forward. There's even a quote by Walt Disney at the end of it, so I think that's pretty cool. If you haven't checked it out already, give it a look. It'll be worth your while. Number 9. The Rocketeer. The best way to describe this is Disney's Indiana Jones. You know, before they actually owned Indiana Jones. And there's even fights with Nazis, so yeah, it's pretty cool. It's about a dude who finds a rocket pack, and he uses it to fight Nazis and stuff. One of the Nazis is an actor, which might have been the start of the theory that all actors are terrible people. I don't freaking know, man. This movie actually has quite a lot of similarities with the first Captain America movie, which I think is actually quite fitting since, well, they're by the same director. I mean, they're both about superheroes. They both span from a comic book. And they're both about fighting Nazis. So, yeah. Captain America kind of ripped this movie off. Although, yeah. This movie has a lot of energy, and it's really fun. But the movie has gotten quite the cult following recently. It was even turned into a Disney Junior show.
Brilliant! take a show that features a bunch of Nazis, gunplay, and a lot of bad language. Well, not really a lot of bad language, just some. And turn it into a TV show aimed at 3-year-olds. I'm surprised this hasn't been done before. Universal, if you're watching this, how about you go ahead and turn Schindler's List into a show made for 3-year-olds on Universal Kids? Seriously, Disney, what the fuck?
Number 8. Sky High. The film is about a high school for superheroes. That is awesome. And with the recent boost in superhero movies in the modern age, I'm surprised that not a lot of people are talking about this film. It features quite a cool selection of superpowers. And I mean, any movie that features both Kurt Russell and Bruce Campbell is immediately cool in my book. I love on how the school has 2 separate divisions, one being heroes and the other being sidekicks. I mean, wow. The concept of a high school for superheroes, God, I just love this idea, and this movie's funny. I mean, it's not one of the most laugh-out-loud comedies ever made, but it still has some really dang good jokes. Plus, the characters are actually written like teenagers, not the typical bland High School Musical bullcrap teenagers that Disney usually writes. And it's a great superhero story. In my personal opinion, one of the best superhero movies that isn't based off of a comic. So, yeah, I highly recommend that you go check this one out. Number 7.
Saving Mr. Banks. I'm not going to go on this for too long, mainly because I feel like I can make a future video on this. There's just a lot to talk about with this movie. The basic gist is that it's the true story on how Walt and the gang made Mary Poppins, one of the company's most famous and beloved movies. But it's mainly focused on the pre-production phase. Pretty much just negotiating the idea with the author of the original books, P.L. Travers, with an added plot on Travers' own childhood, but from the point of view of her memories, which is why it's all whimsical and crap like that. I feel like, to me, the flashback scenes feel a bit weird, because, let's face it, you came here to see the story of Mary Poppins. You didn't come here to see a biography on P.L. Travers. It's almost like they planned to make a P.L. Travers biography, but some higher up at Disney was probably like, people know P.L. Travers for Mary Poppins, and, when people think of Mary Poppins, they always think of the Disney version, so screw it, let's just make it about Mary Poppins. But I will say, Emma Thompson as P.L. Travers, brilliant. The actors who play all the other characters, like the writer and the Sherman brothers, they're also great. And surprisingly, Tom Hanks as Walt Disney is freaking charming as heck. Now looking back at it, since Tom Hanks is viewed as America's dad, it's kind of fitting on how he plays what was pretty much America's uncle back in the day. So, yeah, I'm not going to go too much in the details because, I'm going to make a video on this sometime soon. Maybe not immediately, maybe not even this year, but someday in the future, I'm going to do a video on this because there's just a lot to talk about with this movie, and dang it, this is just a good movie. Go watch it.
Number 6.
The Great Mouse Detective. This film was released right after The Black Cauldron, one of the biggest bombs in Disney history. I think it's safe to say that when this film came out, they clearly learned their lesson from Black Cauldron, and they turned out a decent product that managed to make the company some profit. Well, on its own, compared to An American Tail, which came out around the same time, it kind of... Anyway, the film is about a little girl named Olivia, whose father is missing. So, she meets a mouse named Dawson, and they go ahead and find Basil of Baker Street to help solve the case. But turns out that the dad was kidnapped by Professor Ratigan, who's using him to build a robot of the Queen so that he can become the ruler of England. Well, Mouse England. They're mice, in case you can't tell. This movie is a lot of fun. I mean, yeah. I just love the characters. Basil is so much fun. He's so egocentrical, and you can definitely see that Sherlock Holmes influence in pretty much his personality. And Dawson has a lovely grandfather relationship with Olivia, and dear God, Vincent Price as Ratigan is just having the time of his life. And he even said that in his nearly 6-decade-long career, Ratigan was one of his favorites. I mean, overall, this movie is just so much fun, and by God, I recommend you go ahead and watch it as soon as you're done watching this video, because it's a fun movie. Probably the best feature animation Disney movie from the 80s, with the exception of The Little Mermaid. Still, it's a fun film.
Number 5. Flight of the Navigator. The film is about a 12-year-old boy who falls in a ditch and wakes up like 10 years later. And scientists tried to do studies on it to see what the heck. This kid hasn't aged in like the past 10 years. And they somehow managed to figure out that it's linked to a spaceship. I'm not going to give away all the details, but I feel like you should go into this movie completely blind. All you really need to know is that the film is about a kid who, wakes up after 12 years and hasn't aged a bit. Either 10 or 12 years. One of the two. Now, I have a feeling that most people know what happened, but the film is on this list for a reason. It's an underrated film, so yeah. Paul Reubens does a great job in this as the spaceship character. Well, the character who's in the spaceship. So, and the kid is alright too. All the actors do a very good job, and the film has some really well done creature effects. And I have a feeling that both kids and adults will enjoy different aspects of it. Adults will enjoy all the technobabble and stuff, and the kids will enjoy the child flying around his own little spaceship. So, yeah, give this film a look.